Agut Rabboisai. Live from Chicago, still in the hotel. Motzei Yontif here in America. We're actually live, pretty much live with the Tzibur in Eretz Yisrael. It's right around 7 o'clock a.m. It's a little after 7 a.m. and that's pretty much when the shir starts in Eretz Yisrael. So we're live with Eretz Yisrael. Today's Daf Peites. I hope everybody in America had a great Yontif, and we're still doing Sfiras Ha'omer, Hayoim, Shmoyne Yomim, Sheim Shavua Echad, V'yoim Echad, Ba'omer, La'omer. Get the reminders, remind your Mishpacha. Sfiras Ha'omer today was L'Rfuas Admor Mevish Shlita, K'vay Kedushas Mar Rabbi Yisrael Ben Leah Esther L'Rfuas Shlema. Anybody can jump in and grab a day, a week. Rabbi, you say these are still videos. I did not see this one or any of them that I'm going to show you tonight. These are all surprises. This is by Rabbi Yossi Green. Some of the best songs that Klal Yisrael sings. Beautiful. Let's see what he has to say.
Rabbi Eli Hatzadik Shlita. What a zechus it is for me to be able to communicate with you, one of the great Rosh Yeshivas of our time. River Voice Alpha Yisrael, I'm listening to you on a daily basis. So first of all, I want to bench you that one of them should help you and give you the koiches that you should continue growing. That shir should become, like it says in Pehei today, what the Gemara mentions, 1,000,000 5 times. Me'or Riba, what does it say exactly? Me'or Riba, right? Me'or Riba, 5 times it's mentioned. So you should have more than Me'or Riba Yidden listening daily to you.
4 million.
You're lighting up the world, and every once in a while somebody sends me a video of something that you've said about a song that Baruch Hashem, the Rebbeinu Shalom helped that I was shliach for. So I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. When I get one of those videos, I feel like, wow, it's a chashivas. So in the meantime, have a great Yom Tov, and hope one of these days I'm going to meet you in person, and I'll be able to thank you in person for all the good that you do for Klal Yisrael. Agit Yom Tov.
Wow, beautiful. Shkoyach Rabbi Yossi. Very much looking forward. Maybe you'll compose a song for MDY. It's not about the daf, it's about the yoimi, something beautiful. Barry Weber. Whoa.
Agut Yom Tov, Reb Eli. Baruch Hashem just came off a flight with the West Coast. I chapped that on. Was zoiche to Kabbalas Pnei Rabbi. Was watching the last few days the daf. Baruch Hashem.
Shkoyach. You know, he's a Rosh Yeshiva. He's not Stam a guy. He does very well with his music, but he teaches Bachram every day.
Reb Eli, good morning.
Benzi Marcus of 8th Day. We got to teach these guys. His uncle, I don't know if it's his uncle, but Avram Fried also. Good morning, Rabbi Yisai. You got to do it the whole thing. No. Oh, this must be tonight in Rechasim. Because I see Rabbi Yedidia in the background, so it must be, well, it could have been last night.
לפי מסקנת הגימורה, ואחר כך נראה את זה בפנים, אבל אני אחרת, אני חושב שזה יערבב אותנו יותר מדי. אז בואו ננסה להישאר כמה שיותר ברור. אז מעם עם נזקי פורים ונזקי אלי. אז
כל הכבוד. So Israel Weil is the guy right now in charge of all the satellite locations, and he is located in Rechasim, powerhouse of a guy, Yishkoyach Rabbi Yisrael. Official edition of the White Shas, the Masechta by the Iranian Levi families. Perek, anonymous with gratitude to Hashem, Daf Peites, East Boca Kehila, MDY Chevra, Yishkoyach, Chazak ve'ematz, East Boca. David Salomon sponsors the Masechta. He's a corporate sponsor, dedicated memory of Avi Mari, Reb Shmuel Baruch ben Reb Chaim Tzvidoy, Zichron Levracha, Joel Gedalis, Lilin Shmas, my father Jack Gedalis, anonymous, Hatzlach Baruchins, Uwe Gashminis, the Palchik Family Foundation, Lezech Nishmas Harav Agoy, Reb Shlomo Palchik, the Meshach Ilui, anonymous, Refuah Shlema L'Moshe ben Izaha, anonymous for a complete Refuah Shlema and Arichas Yom Talea Bas Esther, Yisrael and Malki, Tovli Torah, Spichel Ma'alvei Zov, V'cheser, we're so proud of you, Yaakov Mordechai, keep steiging, sending girls and family, Canvey Island, UK, in honor of Rebelli, who changed my meaning of life. He sponsored the entire Masechta, Ploini, Almoini, Yossi, Mark, and Benny, and all the Oiskim, but Tzorchi, MDY, Akash Baruch Hu, Yisham, Scharam, only Akash Baruch Hu can repay everything that they do. Arya Simon, Refuah Shlema, Avimari, Baruch Miriam, daily sponsors, Shaul, Jaspin, Lilu Nishmas Hayeled, Yosef Alav, Hashalom ben Shaul, Avram, and Brocha Esther. MDY Art, month. Crazy. I mean, you just read it, but it seems like Ben Shaul, it's his son, L'chayra. Yeled, Hayeled, Nervayim. MDY Art Month, Refuah Shlema, Yehonatan Itam Ben Meshav Bracha, Refuah Shlema Mordechai Ben Esther, Refuah Hayeled, Daniel Zeb Ben Hayeled Esther, Rabbi Isai, here we go. We are mamish on today's Daf Pei Tes. We're holding 2 lines down. Chatzi lug shemen l'toida. We learned in the Mishnah that there's a half a lug of oil for the 30 breads of the toida that are matzah. 10 of them are chametz. We're finally coming back to mizmer l'tzoida. I spoke to people here in the hotel. Not everyone was familiar with the idea. There was a guy that's a Talmud Chacham. I asked him about it. He says, "Yeah, I know we don't. I don't really know the reason why we don't say mizmer l'tzoida." Actually, no. Sorry. He knew the reason. He said, I don't believe anybody doesn't know the reason. So we asked a few people and they didn't know the reason. Yeah, sorry. So the reason why we don't say Mizmor Soida during Pesach is because the Toida, like we discussed, has a bunch of chametz in it. Here we go. 10 of the breads are chametz, and therefore we can't say Mizmor Soida. Erev Pesach is a different story, but also we don't say Mizmor Soida. And it says in Allah, by the way, that when you say Mizmor Soida, I don't do it, but I hope you guys do it. You should sing it, benigan. There's a shira to Mizmor Soida. It's a Mizmor Soida. It's a special Mizmor that we say to thank Hashem. Tanya Rebbe Kiva Omer, Matamad Omer, Bashem and Shtei Pa'amim. It says in the pasuk Bashemen Shtei Pa'amim. In fact, we'll see the pasuk has 3 times Bashemen. So we're looking at the first 2 times. Why does the pasuk say the word Bashemen twice? If we would only say it once, I would say just like every other mincha gets a full lug of oil, so to the toida gets a full lug. Why a half lug? Bashemen or Bashemen, have a ribuy achar ribuy. So we have a klal, we have a rule in the Torah. When there's 2 positives make a negative. A ribuy achar ribuy, when it comes to include twice, it comes to be marba to, a ribuy achar ribuy el lamayit. The rule is that if it says the word twice, it comes to include twice, it's actually a miyut. So we take it down 1 step. We go from a full lug, which a typical mincha gets, take it down to half. Ribuy, ask the Gemara, ribuy achar ribuy, chad ribuy hu. Why are you telling me it's 2 ribuyim? We need the first one, just tell me that there's oil. No, so the Gemara, it's a long lashon, but the point is simple. If it wouldn't have said the first one at all, automatically I could assume that every mincha up until now gets a full lug of oil. So to the toida gets a full lug. I don't need the first shemen to tell me that you get a lug shemen, because that's obvious. Every mincha gets a lug. So why does it say Bashemen twice? It must be the idea of ribuy achar ribuy, and the double positive is a negative. Look, it takes it down to have a look. I would think now the matzah part we're going to ignore. I mean the chametz part we're going to ignore for now. The 10 on the right, forget about. We're talking about the 3 to the left: the revucha, the matzah, and the rikikim. The chalois, the rikikim, and the revucha. I have a half a lug, so perhaps divide the half into thirds. Each one, the revucha gets a third, the chalois gets a third, the rikikim get a third. And Now we're going to discuss the final word, Bashaman, at the end of the pasuk. Why does it say Bashaman again? B'revicha. She'ein tamud loymar. It doesn't need to be said at all. Why? Because it says mufurish in this pasuk, Al machavas Bashaman teyosem murbeches tevieno. It says that there's oil Bashaman in a murbeches. So I don't need the pasuk to tell me again, right over here, that the murbeches, all the way at the end of the pasuk, gets oil. I already have a pasuk. I'm just explaining why these words, these three words, Ribo Shemen L'Revicha. The Torah is saying, no, I already said it once, you're right, but I'm saying it again to tell you that the Revucha, the three types, we have the Rekikin, the Chalis, and the Revucha gets more than the other two. Okay, so how do you do it? I think this is it. You take a half a lug of the oil, that's the amount that we discussed already, it should be a half. And what do you do to that half? You divide it in half, each one is a quarter of a lug. The two types, the chalos and the riki, can get a quarter of a lug. In other words, they both, the rikikin, they get an eighth and an eighth. The chalis get an eighth and the rikikin get an eighth, which is a half of each one is, you take the chatzi, you divide it into quarters. So it's a half of a quarter, is an eighth. And the other one, the revicha, gets okay. What did I just say? Eighth? Half? Quarter. Yeah, it gets a quarter. It gets a quarter and the other one gets an eighth. Yeah. Givaldik. So the revicha gets a quarter and the chalois gets an eighth and the rikikin gets an eighth. Omar loy Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. Akiva calls him by his name. Akiva. It doesn't matter that you're making these drushes bashemen twice, three times. I can't. I'm not being mikabel. Elochatzi lug shemen letoido. You should know it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu received this from the Rebbeinu Shleilim. It's not a pasuk in the Torah. Not only that, there's two other things. Chatzi lug shemen letoido. The fact that there's a chatzi lug that goes to the Torah is halacha l'Moshe Sinai, not because there's extra shemen. Urevius shemen lenazir, and the fact that a nazir gets a revius of a lug. Ve'achader soyoyim shebein nida lenida halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Midday raisa, a woman who sees dam, she becomes a nida for 7 days. After the 7 days, doesn't matter if she sees 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. After the 7 days, she goes to the mikvah, she's toivel and star. The 11 days after that time, Halacha l'Moshe Sinai tells us that these are the days of Ziva. And Ziva is a different type of dam. And you can become a Zavagtana or a Zavagdoila. If she sees 3 times, then she's a Zavagdoila. She has to bring Karba Chulu. But as you can see here in the chart, 4, 5, 6, these are days, let's say, it's just an example, days 4, 5, 6, then she becomes a Zavagdaila, Zavagtana. Now, today, Bnei Yisrael accepted upon themselves that they, no matter what, let me just go back a second. If it's a Zavagtana, she's Shemeres Yom Kineged Yom, so she just has to keep 1 clean day. But if she's a Zavagdaila, then she has to keep 7 days of Tahara, and then goes to the mikvah. So today, there's no such thing as Ziva days and Nida days. They just made them all one to be machmer, because it becomes very complicated to figure out did she see dam in the Ziva day? Did she see dam in the Nida day? So they just said everything, we're going to be machmer, they have to keep 7 days of Tahara. This idea that there's 11 days of Ziva, that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Okay, so Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah argues on Rabbi Kiva, and he says it's not a pasuk. This that a toida gets a half a lug of oil, not a full lug, that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Balug hayamoided. So it says in the Mishnah that balug hayamoided, basically they hold, this man Omar holds, that even ubalug hayamoided l'kol menachos. We have a machlokes here, whether or not a mincha that's a huge mincha of 60 isarin of flour, instead of 1 isarin, 60 isarin, do you add 60 lug of oil or 1 lug of oil for all 60? When a person is a Mitzayra, he has tzaras, the Kohen says you have an infliction of tzaras. If he can't afford the typical karbanas of a wealthy person who has to bring a asham, a oil, and a chatos, so the Torah is lenient with him and says you could bring a mincha instead. Torah Rabbanim, Mitzayra aniksiv, isarin balul v'lug. It says these 3 words, isarin, for 1 isarin, balul v'lug. Limed al isarin shetan lug. So Chachamim say, each and every isarin requires 1 lug. They argue and they say, Rabbi Nechami and Rabbi Elazar say that even 60 Yisroinos only requires 1 lug of oil shenemar, and they have a different pasuk. LeMincha v'loig shaman. For the entire mincha, 1 lug shaman. Now they are going to have to explain what do we do with the first pasuk, Isarim balul lug, that for every Isarim there's 1 lug. And the Tanakam and the Chacham are going to have to explain what do we do with this pasuk, LeMincha v'loig shaman. How does it fit in that no matter how large the mincha is, loig shaman, you get 1 lug shaman? Says the Gemara, which seems like every Yisar needs a lug. My Abdullah, what do they do with it? Ahu legufe. This is in a Mitzayra, a poor person's Mitzayra, to teach us the Ka'amar Achmana Leisi Chad Yisarin. Tells us you should bring 1 Yisarin of flour. V'idach, the Gufe Leitzarach. I don't need a pasuk to tell me that. V'digal Rachmana Gavim Mitzayra Ashir. Shleishu Karbanis and Shleishu Yisraelis. By a regular Mitzayra, he has to bring the Chatas Olin Asham, and he has to bring 3 Yisroinus. You see? You can even see he's holding on to the flour. So since he has flour, how much? 3 Yisroinus. Hacha Dechat Karban. So by the poor Mitzayra, he brings 1 carbon, therefore he brings 1 Yisarin. If you bring 3 Karbanas like the regular Mitzayra, you bring 3 measurements of flour, 3 strains of flour. If you bring 1 carbon, so you bring 1 measurement. You don't get out of it completely. The Torah had Rachmana says, you're poor, you don't have to bring all the karbanas. Perhaps you shouldn't have to bring flour at all. There's no such thing. Why? Everything that the rich person has to bring, the poor person has to bring in another form. But to get out of it completely, that we don't find. Now we have to go in the reverse. What are Rabbanan going to do with Rebbe Eliezer's pasuk that says lemincha v'loig shaman, that for an entire mincha, even 60 Yisroinim, all you need is 1 leg. Any person who decides to give an adava of a mincha, he has to give a minimum of something that requires 1 lug of oil, which means 1 isar. That is the minimum. So I need a pasuk to tell me that if you're wanting to give HaKadosh Baruch Hu a gift, a nadava of a mincha, don't bring a half a yisarin. You need a full yisarin, which requires 1 lug. Ve'idach, we could learn from this pasuk both things, that it has to be a minimum as well as his original drasha. Shisha lapar arba la'ayil shloisha lekeves. Minala. So if you look at the pasuk, very, very simple. Look what it says over in the pasuk. B'niskayim chatzi ahin yeh lapar. The bull gets a half a hin. Ushlish is ahin la'ayil. These are famous psukim. Say in Rosh Chodesh. A third of a hin for the ram, the 2-year-old sheep. Revi'as ahin, and a quarter of a hin is for the sheep. Now, if I tell you that a hin is 12 lug, so it's very easy. Math is very easy with 12. Half of 12 is 6. A third of 12 is 4. A quarter of 12 is 3. So therefore, when I say chatzi ahin yela par, a half of 12 is 6 lug for the par. U'shlish ahin, the Torah tells us a third of a hin, a third of 12 for the ayil, which would mean 4. U'revi'as ahin, a quarter of 12 lugim for the keves, means 3. Givaldik, I got it all. Says the Gemara D'chsiv, B'niskeim chatzi hin yela par, u'shlish ahin lo'ayil, revi'as ahin lekeves yoyil. Hin, you should know, a hin is treisar lugi havin. A hin is 12 lug. D'chsiv shemen zayis hin. Uchsiv shemen mishras kodesh yeh ze lili dorisechem. Ze begematria treisar havion. Since it says the word ze is 12. Pelaploy. For most people, gematria is like the hoibin of things. Gematrias are things that you say at a Sheva Brachas, that the Kala has the same name as the Chossen's last name with the Koilel, plus how much she weighs, and etc., etc. You get to it's always like this interesting Gematria. Over here you have a Gematria that's a limud, that's a halacha. And over here you could say, like the Litvaks will say, that Ein Odom Don Gematria me'atzmoi Elohim ken kibel meraboy. It's one of these things that meichetesa. Where did you get this from? ChatGPT. Yeah, you have to get it from your Rebbe. You got it from your Rebbe. Okay, great. But it's rare. But we did have it a number of times in Shas where we learn halacha from a gematria. Tell the good thing. Zoch the Gemara. Shloishim mechzel lebenaira. Chatzi log l'kol ner. There's 3.5 log for the menorah every day. That means each cup gets a half a log per candle, per light. Let's just see. I know there was something here. Ooh, I missed this one. Chaval. Let's do it. There's ein ribui acha ribui elo l'mayit. Ribui. One shaman. Yeah! Now there's another ribui. So what happens is less oil, no? Less oil. That's the offices of the artist of MDY. So I don't know what they did there exactly. Okay, Givaldik. Here we go. This is 12 hin from the word zeh. Twelve log from the word zeh. The par gets 6. Chatzi hin. Got it. Okay, Givaldik. I don't want to miss any more. We're here, okay? Each candle gets a chatzi lug, beautiful. Okay. And, okay. Says the Gemara, how do I know that this is what the menorah gets? The Torah Rabbanon. May erev ad boiker. It says in the pasuk that you should light the menorah from evening to the morning. give it enough oil that it could light from the evening to the morning. And how much is that? Chatzi lug. Dovar acher, another pshat. Meyerev at boiker, ein lecha avodah sheksher meyerev at boiker, elo zu bilvad. There is no avoid in the Beis Hamikdash that went from the evening to the morning. What else goes from the evening? Like lechatchila, you should start in the evening and it goes all the way to the morning. Mele, that must be the menorah. It's the lighting of the menorah. Veshiru says the Gemara, Veshiru Chacham Chatzi Lug Me'urta Vat Safra. And the Chacham said it takes about a half a lug from morning to evening, even in the longest evenings of the night, even if the night is 16 hours, this is the amount of oil that we need. Ikidamri, Bilamalo Lematashiru. How did they get to the amount? The Rebbeinu Shalom didn't tell them the exact amount. So they started from the hin. They started from the largest amount, and they worked their way down all the way till they got to, they saw it was too much. They got to the Chatzi Lug. They started with a revius of a lug until they got to the half a lug. The man that says they went from the bottom to the top. The Rebbeinu Shalom has rachmanas on Klal Yisrael's money, even if it's the Beis Hamikdash's money, even though it's not that much. It's just a one-time deal to figure out how much oil we need to burn in the longest night of the year. So you start out from the lowest one. It burns out in the middle of the night. Okay, so the next night you give more. Next night you give more. But you're not wasting any oil. Whereas if you were to start with the full hin, and then you realize you don't need a full hin, so now you have to toss it. You have to start over again. If we start from the top to the bottom, when there's the Beis Hamikdash where the walls are covered in gold and the kelim are gold, you don't act like a pauper. You don't. Certain times I walk into the Beis Medrash and MDY say, why is the air conditioner shut off here? I'm not going to say during what time of the day it is, but certain people, they're like, oh, we want to save money. No. We're not trying to save money here. We're trying to make it comfortable and nice. I'm saying this b'dafka because I think I have a chshad that somebody that's involved with that might be listening to the shir right now, even though he's not supposed to. But anyway, there's a musa called Ein Anius B'Mokem Hashirus. You don't act like a ani in a place, in a Rebbeisha place with the Rebbe, everything is gold and silver. You're going to start like, we should try to save on a chatzi lug of oil because maybe it's going to burn. No. Oh. Yeshiva in Anius B'Mokem Hashirus. Hechel Yitzchok. They're eating lamb chops. They're eating over there. Shiva Sator Chasam Amim Yisrael Meisharim. The electric is on the wall. Kids are big dorms with the. He takes his 10-inch mattress and he goes to the other yeshiva. Gewaldig. All right. Atka and Hakofa Aleph. Says the Mishnah, we have a Hakofa here. Let's do the Mishnah first. Ma'arvin nischei parim b'niskei elim. I think he did a little, here. If you look on the left, the par and the aisle have the same, what's the word I'm looking for? Mark. I'll say the word and then you'll know. For every 3 isarin of flour, there's 6 lug shemen. In other words, 2 to 1. The ratio, same ratio. Oh, I got the word. The ratio is 2 to 1. If you look at the ram all the way on the left, 4 lug shemen for 2 isarin of silas. So it's 2 to 1. For every 1 isarin of flour, there's 2 lug of shemen. So the ratio of the ram and the bull are identical. Therefore, if you mix them up, we're going to talk about exactly when, but if they get mixed up, now look at the word, ma'arvim nischei parim benischei elim. It seems like almost from the lashon, if I were to ask you, does it mean after the fact or before the fact? Is it l'chatchila? I could if I feel like it, or it means if you already did it, it's okay. Seems like from reading it, without any depth over here, it seems like you can do it if you feel like it. It's not after the fact. It's not a b'di'evet, it's the l'chatchila. You have to get those words straight. L'chatchila means go ahead and you do it. There's nothing stopping you and you're not doing anything wrong. B'di'evet means you shouldn't do it. If you did it after the fact, it's okay. So again, the 2 guys on the left, they are a 2 to 1 ratio. But a keves, a sheep, is a 3 to 1 ratio. You see, he has 3. If I were Yoshi, I would have done, maybe not. I see why you did it like that. Okay, you see, it has 3 lug for every isarin of flour. So the ratio is different. Therefore, you cannot mix a sheep with a cow. You can't mix a sheep with a ram. Nischei kvasim b'nischei kvasim. You could mix 2 sheep together, because they're both 3 lug of oil to 1 lug. So you're not going to have any carbon that's missing oil or has too much oil. It's exact. The ratio is the same. Shel yachad b'shel tzibur, I can mix that of an individual and the community together. Daf peites on beis. Shel yoim b'shel emesh. Let's say I want to bring the nesachim 5 days later, I could do so. I brought my carbon on a Sunday. I could bring my nesachim on a Tuesday, and they mix. I cannot mix these. Let's go back over here for a second. Sorry, Mark. I cannot mix a guy on the right, a sheep on the right, with a bull on the left, or with the ram on the left. Why? Because the ratio is different. So it'll come out that if I do mix it, then the sheep on the right is going to have too little oil for his mincha, and the bull on the left is going to have too much oil, and that's both of those are a problem. Vimbalalon. Now, pay attention. This is the 3rd part of the Mishnah. I skipped the 2nd by mistake, but I didn't show you. On top line, if we go back 1 line, that's part 2 of the Mishnah. It's called Eima Arvin part. And now we're doing part 3 of the Mishnah. V'im Balalan, we'll call it V'im Balalan, part 3. You know what, let me just show you this right after. You see, part 1 is Ma'arvin, part 2 is Eima Arvin, and part 3 that we're reading right now is Balalan. Part 2 is the line right above it. Eima Arvin, you're not permitted to mix the nesachim of a sheep with the nesachim of a bull. That's simple enough. Eima Arvin. V'im Balalan, and if you did, Elu b'fnei atzman, Elu b'fnei atzman, that's part 3. We're going to go away from this for now. Just wanted to introduce you to it so it's not too confusing. V'im Balalan, Elu b'fnei atzman, Elu b'fnei atzman. Let's say you mixed the oil and the 3 lug of oil of, if I mixed the guy on the right all by itself, 3 lug of oil with 1 isarin of flour, all by itself, mixed it up, it's givaldik. So we got everything you needed. And I mixed the bull, it's 3 isarin of silas with 6 lug of shemen, mixed it all up. And only after that it got together, then it's kosher. But if they got mixed, the sheep and the cow got mixed beforehand, just in the raw form of oil by itself and flour by itself, Possible. Then it's possible. Next halacha, and we're not going to be dealing with this that much. Hakeves habayim ha'omer today. The sheep that comes to the omer, Rabbi Zim, we're in Sfiras ha'omer. Don't forget to say Sfiras ha'omer. Aval b'yishim mechotzik fulo. Even though that the mincha that comes to the omer is to Esrainim, double than usual. So I would think if it's to Esrainim, how much oil does it need? 6 log. Look, you have the sheep over here. 1 isarin of soilus, the guy all the way on the right, brings 3 log of oil. So if it's 2 Esrainim, it should be 6. No. You don't have to double it up. Okay. Atkan hakofa beis. Says the Gemara. Now we have a 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 line sugya. Veriminu, ask the Gemara. It says in the pasuk, "Vikti roi." You should be makter. You should bring this up on the mizbech by itself. Vikti roi with a vav. Don't say viktir. Vikti roi. Eat it by itself. Shlo yarev chalavim b'chalavim. We learn in the brisa that there's an isser. Oh, hold on. Before I go there, let me say the turning of the daf. Turning of the daf by for Nissan, Adar Global, experts in cross-border payments. Shadach.com. Please read a shidduch today because every shidduch that happened was first read. I read a shidduch today. I did. Let's see if it works. I didn't read it today, but I worked on it today. Zogt the Gemara. Viriminu. How could you tell me that you're allowed to take the oil and the flour of a bull and mix it with the oil and the flour of a ram because it has the same ratio? We learned that even viktiroi shloyarev chalom b'chalavim, you can't even take the emurim of one and mix them with the emurim of the other and put them together. You want to save time going up the ram to the mizbeach. So you throw this carbon. No, each carbon is by itself. So each carbon is by itself. So too every mincha should be by itself. Why are you mixing the oils of 2 different menachos and the flour of 2 different menachos? Rabbi Yochanan, im nisarvu omar. Rabbi Yochanan is saying in part 1 of the Mishnah that the Mishnah says ma'arvin, which I would have read, you would have read. Ma'arvin means go ahead and do it. You can mix the bull and the ram. No. You shouldn't. If you did it was by mistake, whatever, then it's okay. So I put on top of number 1, the first part of the Mishnah, b'di'evet. It's not l'chatchila. It's only after the fact. Okay. The problem is, let's just speak it out. The problem is, how does it fit with the rest of the Mishnah? If the rest of the Mishnah, if let's say number 2 is b'di'evet, then number 1 must be l'chatchila because we go in order. You start off from best to worst. You start off, this is okay, but this is not okay. If number 2 is a b'di'evet, then number 1 must be l'chatchila. Let's see inside. That's number 2. The second part of the Mishnah says you shouldn't mix the sheep with the. You cannot mix sheep with bulls and rams, right? The guy on the right side. Let's show it again. Second part of the Mishnah is you can't mix the right and the left. The sheep on the right, he has a different ratio of oil than the ram on the left has, and the bull on the left has a different ratio. So if so, this is the kasha. Over there it says, and even b'di'evet not. Okay, so number 2 became b'di'evet no. But the problem is, right? So it seems like part 2 of the Mishnah, Ma'arvin, is even after the fact no good. If you mixed the sheep with the bull, no good even after the fact. Problem is, Part 3 says that if you mix them after they were mixed by itself, each one by themselves were mixed, and then you mix the two of them together, it's kosher. The mechlal the reisha, over here reisha does not mean number one, over here reisha means the one right before it, number two. Mechlal the reisha lechatchila kamar. Oh boy. If number three is b'di'eved, and number three is worse, is worse than number two, so that now we have to change number two to be lechatchila. And if number two is lechatchila, then number one is also lechatchila. I should have done another one right over here, where I should have shown that number three is b'di'eved, but number two is lechatchila. And if number two is lechatchila, then the beginning of the Mishnah, because it goes in order, it goes from best to worst. And if number two is great, it's the perfect, it's lechatchila, then number one has to be lechatchila. So bottom line is, if number one is lechatchila, so we have a problem. We just said that you're not allowed to mix emurim, you're not allowed to mix chalavim together. So if you're not allowed to mix chalavim together, how come you can mix this the flour and the oil together? Rabbi Yochanan said that it's only b'di'eved, it's after the fact. We just proved that number one cannot be after the fact. Number one has to be lechatchila. Or Abaya Chikomer. The bottom line is, says Abaya, we're going to change pshat in the Mishnah. Until now we thought the Mishnah is talking about mixing oil and flour together. And now we have a problem to say that it's a lechatchila because we have a brayso that says you're not allowed to mix things together. Oh, we're not talking about the oil and the flour, we're talking about wine. When? So I just added the word yain on number one, ma'arvin, yain. When? In the sarif salta v'shamnam. If you're not supposed to mix the oil and the flour together, l'chatchila, but let's say, why? Because that we learned v'ktira, you're not supposed to. But let's say you did. Let's say it happened. So if the oil and the flour are mixed, then you're permitted to mix the wine. Now here's the problem. It seems like you have to come onto a step that you mix the oil and the flour, then you're allowed to do the wine. What about if you didn't mix the oil and the you're not allowed to mix the wine? You can't mix wine. You can't mix the sheep and the cow, the sheep and the bull, those two things, right? The one on the right, the one on the left, you can't mix them. What are you not mixing? The oil and the flour. You could take the wine of the sheep and the wine of a bull and mix it. Let's say you don't want to go up to the mizbeach. It's too heavy. You don't want to do all these strips. You go up to the mizbeach once, and then you have a little bit of wine from a bull, a little bit of wine from a sheep. The ratios are different when it comes to the oil and the flour, but not the wine. I don't care. So I'll take no. It says over here, you can mix the wine of a keves and a par. Okay, so therefore I got to go away from what we wrote on number one that we're talking about mixing of the wine. What is the pshat now? Talking about something else. And then we're done with the sugi. It's only 3 lines. When you already put the oil and the flour on the mizbeach, then I could go ahead and mix the wines. Why? I'm not concerned that you might go mix oil and flour. That's our big concern, because if you mix oil and wine and flour together, that's you're over in the isra viktiru. So once it's on the mizbeach, it's already burned. I'm not concerned. So if I'm not concerned, I could bring the wine. So number one is ma'arvin. I'm permitted to bring the wine, to mix wines, mix 2 types of wines from a sheep and a bull, when there's no concern about the oil and the flour, because the oil and flour are already on the mizbeach. But when the oil and the flour are not on the mizbeach, depends. If they already got mixed in, you already mixed it up, then you could go and mix the wine, even lechatchila, you could go and mix the bull and the sheep's wine. But if their oil and the flour are not mixed, then you shouldn't mix the wines. Why? Because then you might get mixed up, and you might be ma'arev. You might mix the flour and the oil, which that is the rice of iktir. Okay, so that's sugya. Let's see if I have another one here. No, that's it. Okay. Whew. Then you tell me Menachos is difficult. Not difficult. So now it's super easy. The sheep that comes together with the Omer, said it has double the amount of flour, but not double the amount of oil. It comes with double the amount of flour. Two Israelim. Teaches us that the sheep that comes with the Omer, it has a double mincha. Maybe you should bring double the amount of wine. Talmud loymar, like a full hin. Talmud loymar v'nisko yayin revius ahin. Sorry, a half hin. So the Torah says no, you should only bring a revius. Reminds me of a Maisa that a Rosh Shiva went to a brisker chasana, and he got a bracha by the chuppah, and he takes the cup of wine, and he goes like this. So after the chuppah, someone asks him, why do you put it above your head? He says, listen, I saw from the size of the cup that they hold a revius is that much. Now, typically you're supposed to lift it a tefach, let's say, off the table. So maybe it was at the Shevet Brachos, a tefach. So if a revius, instead of being this much, is that much, so tefach, instead of being this much, it's that much. I had to go above my head. Okay, I understand why the wine is not double, because you don't mix wine together with the flour. But the ratio just changed. If it's 3 lug for 1 isarin, it should be 6 lug of oil for 2 isarim. Why should it remain 3 lug of oil for 2 isarim? Something's wrong. The wine is a revius, and so is the oil a revius. All the nesachim. My Talmuda, it says niskay, referring to wine, not referring to oil. Why would you say it includes oil also? Because in fact, it doesn't say with a vav, it says with a hey. Vikarina v'niskay, but we read it, it's kriksiv. It's written one way, it's read another way. And we read it v'niskay his. Okay, it's that. Niska the mincha, the oil, the nesachim of the mincha, meaning the oil, can niska the yayin, are like the nesachim of the wine. Ma yayin revius, avshemer nam revius. Because the Torah switched from a hey to a vav, to teach us that oil is like the wine, and both of them are only revius, not a half a hin. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Asham Tzayro. Asham Tzayro sheshachta shloi l'shmoi ton nesachim. Says Rabbi Yochanan, the Mitzayra, here, going back to this Mitzayra. What happens when you shech the asham of a Mitzayra, thinking to yourself that it's a shlamim? So that's called loy lishma. But as we learned in the first Mishnah of Masechet Zvachim, you continue performing the Avodah. You don't throw it out into the garbage unless it's a chatos or a carbon pesach. Those are the two that if you messed up on the lishma, you thought there were another carbon, you throw it out. But he says it's not good enough just to continue. You got to continue, pretend that it's an anashim mitzayra. To nesachim, you have to give it the nesachim. Like a regular asham wouldn't require nesachim. But since this is an asham of a mitzayra, and the asham of a mitzayra comes with wine and flour, so you have to continue that. Here, you see, the guy's holding wine and flour, oil and flour. Says the Gemara, Shemiat Omer came Pesalto. Otherwise, if you don't bring the nesachim as necessary, you don't bring the flour and the oil, you make it possible. Mascular, I don't understand something. If so, let's take this rule and apply it somewhere else. The same thing would apply. Let's say you're bringing a carbon together with the omer, and you thought to yourself, it's not an omer, it's a oila, it's a shlamim. You should continue doing it, but you should bring two Israelim. We just established from the pasuk that the omer gets double the amount of flour. So if you thought to yourself it's a shlamim, continue on with it, but bring double the amount of flour. But why? It's not an omer. Continue doing it, otherwise it's going to be puzzle. And another thing, every day we bring a tamid, a oila in the morning, and oila in the afternoon. So you bring the one in the morning, you didn't have intent that it's a tamid. You thought it's a shlamim or anything else, a taida, you should have to bring, every morning, they, together with the tamid, they would bring wood from the lishkas ha'etzim. But not this, not these giant pieces, two pieces, two gzirim. This I just stole from the Wormy sugya, but you understand the pshat. You have to bring wood, so continue doing what you have to do. Bring wood. If you don't say this, you make it possible. And again, and if you bring the tamid in the afternoon, you didn't have the right intent. You should have to be required to bring two pieces of wood, but with two kohanim, not with one like in the morning. Because if you don't say that, you're right that you had the wrong kavana. And if you have the wrong kavana, the Mishnah says just continue doing the avodah, and it's kosher for something else. But over here, according to what Rabbi Yochanan says, that a Shabbat Tzorah you have to continue doing like in a Shabbat Tzorah by bringing the oil and the flour. So by the time you have to bring the two pieces of wood, and if you don't, you make it possible. Says Gemara in Chanami, you're right. You do have to continue doing it as is and not change anything about it, and bring the wood with two kohen and with one kohen. Elomar bad. And the reason why we're talking about Hashem Tzorah, Rabbi Yochanan grabbed the one example out of the four examples. Rav Abba, or whatever the gear says, Omar Bishlam Ana Choylis Ninu. When it comes to a carbon tamid, so it's not going to be a tamid, it will be an oil, it will be something else. Daf Tzadik. Iloi Chazu, Loilas Choyva, Karvi, Loilas Nadava. Okay, if it doesn't work out for the chayva, so be a regular oil for nadava, as if somebody brought a nadava. It's not for the carbon tamid, it's for nadava, but they have the same name. One is oil, the other is oil. Elahacha by the shamet tzayra. That's why Rabbi Yochanan talks about it. If you don't do exactly the way the asham tzayra is, meaning with the flour and the oil, asham nadava miyika. There's no such thing as bringing in asham nadava. Says the Gemara, can you give us a Rabbi Yochanan? We have a right to Rabbi Yochanan. If you have a asham tzorah, what's Rabbi Yochanan's halacha? That if you bring your asham tzorah, but you don't have the right intent that it's an asham for a tzorah, but it's, let's say you think to yourself it's a shlamim, you continue bringing all the things that come together, the asham tzorah, the oil and the flour. So he says, asham tzorah shechatish l'shmai oishel inosam edomai agabi b'hoinois. You brought the asham tzorah, but you didn't have the right kavana, or you didn't put the blood on the thumb and on the big finger. Hareza oila legabe mizbeach. It goes in the mizbeach. V'to nesachim, and you have to continue bringing the nesachim, the mincha. V'tzarach hashem acher latira. So you see that you have to continue, just like Rabbi Yochanan said, you have to continue bringing what you bring. You just have to bring another one instead of it. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day. In a good voch.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.